Consciousness is the root of all experience. The house you live in, the clothes you wear, the relationships you cherish or struggle with, the money in your hand, even the very body you move through the world in, all of it is shaped by consciousness. Nothing exists for you outside of what you are aware of being. If you see yourself as poor, life reflects poverty. If you see yourself as rich, life bends itself toward abundance. This is not imagination as mere fantasy, but imagination as the creative power of the universe. The outer world is but a mirror of the inner state, and the mirror never lies. When you understand this, you stop wrestling with appearances. You stop blaming circumstances, people, or fate. You recognize that everything that appears in your world has its origin in your inner conversation, your assumptions, and above all, your feelings. Imagine for a moment that your consciousness is the projector, and the world is the screen. The film running through the projector determines the images on the screen. No matter how much you scratch or argue with the screen, nothing changes there until you change the reel. In the same way, the events of your life are simply reflections of the reel of consciousness playing within you. Change the reel, and the movie changes. The beauty of this realization is that you no longer live as a victim of circumstance. You live as the director, the author, the dreamer of your dream. Now here lies the subtlety. Consciousness does not respond to empty thought. It is not the fleeting wish or the momentary daydream that shapes your life. It is the sustained awareness, charged with feeling, that impresses itself upon the deep of your being and emerges as fact. A man may say all day long that he is successful, but if he secretly feels himself to be a failure, his world will echo that feeling. Another may utter no words at all, but if he quietly and persistently feels secure and prosperous, success will come to him uninvited. This is why it has been said that feeling is the secret. Thought without feeling is like a seed without soil. It remains barren. But when thought is clothed in feeling, it sinks deep into the subconscious and takes root. And once it takes root, the harvest is inevitable. You may not see it immediately, just as you do not see a seed sprout the moment you plant it. But in time the invisible will become visible. The unseen state will harden into fact. Feeling creates the pattern, the mold through which life flows. Imagine your consciousness as molten energy, formless and powerful. It needs a container, a shape, a pattern through which it may express itself. Feeling is that pattern. When you assume the feeling of being healthy, you create a mold of health, and life fills that mold. When you assume the feeling of being loved, you create a mold of love, and life rushes to occupy it. When you assume the feeling of wealth, you create a mold of wealth, and circumstances bend themselves to match it. This is not about pretending. Pretending lacks conviction. It is about embodying the mood, inhabiting it until it feels natural. If you long for freedom, you must feel free now, not tomorrow, not when the outer conditions seem right. Freedom must become the atmosphere of your inner world. When it does, you will find the outer world mysteriously rearranging itself to match that inner conviction. Some will say that they have tried to imagine wealth. They have tried to picture health, but nothing changed. The missing element is always feeling. You may paint a beautiful picture in your mind, but if you feel lack, if you feel separation, the picture remains lifeless. To breathe life into it, you must step into the picture, feel its reality, and dwell in that state as though it were already here. When the inner scene feels more real than the outer one, the law has been fulfilled, and the result must follow. Consider a simple example. A man who has always been anxious in social gatherings wishes to be confident. He may tell himself repeatedly that he is confident, but if deep down he still feels small, shy, and invisible, his world will confirm his inner feeling. But if he closes his eyes and imagines entering a room with the poise of someone he admires, if he feels the ease in his body, hears himself speaking freely, senses the warmth of others responding to him, and repeats this feeling until it becomes natural, he has planted the seed. Soon, without forcing, he will notice himself behaving differently, and others will respond accordingly. The feeling created the pattern, and life filled it. Feeling is not emotion in the shallow sense. It is deeper than fleeting moods or passing reactions. It is the inner conviction, the tone of reality you accept as true. You may feel rich while holding not a penny in your hand. You may feel loved while lying alone in a room. You may feel secure while the evidence of insecurity surrounds you. The feeling is what matters, for it is the cause, while the outer evidence is the effect. To reverse the order is to live in bondage to appearances. To master the order is to live in freedom. The subconscious mind does not argue. It does not reason. It does not resist. It accepts as fact what you persistently feel to be true. That is why worry manifests so faithfully. Worry is simply negative imagination clothed in feeling. You imagine what you fear, you feel it as though it were happening, and so your subconscious accepts it as a command. The same power that brings about your fears can bring about your dreams if only you direct it wisely. Replace worry with faith, replace doubt with the feeling of certainty, and the law will serve you just as faithfully in the direction of your desire. Every great achievement began as a feeling. The artist feels the completed painting before the brush touches the canvas. The composer feels the music before a note is played. The inventor feels the solution before the machine is built. What they feel inwardly becomes the pattern for outward expression. You may think they are men and women of rare genius, but the truth is they are using the same law that governs all. They have simply learned to trust the inner feeling more than the outer fact. Life will always outpicture what you inwardly feel yourself to be. To argue with this law is to argue with the wind. You may protest, you may resist, but the wind will blow regardless. The wise do not resist. They learn to set their sails. When you harness feeling, you are setting the sail of your consciousness toward the shore you desire. When you lie down to sleep tonight, do not drift into unconsciousness with the troubles of the day. Choose instead to carry into that fertile state the feeling of your wish fulfilled. If you long for reconciliation, feel the warmth of harmony as though it were already established. If you desire success, feel the thrill of accomplishment as though it were already achieved. Sleep in that mood, and your subconscious will take it as fact. In time, your waking world will reflect it. There is a great difference between forcing yourself to believe and quietly assuming the feeling. Forcing creates tension, while assumption creates ease. The key is naturalness. At first, it may seem unnatural to feel wealthy when you are in debt, or to feel loved when you are alone. But as you persist, the new feeling takes root. Just as a new habit of movement becomes second nature with practice, so does a new state of consciousness. In time, the new feeling becomes your dwelling place, and the old one fades away. You are not required to know how it will come to pass. The manner, the sequence, the unfolding of events is not your concern. Your only task is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in it. Life itself will arrange the details. Opportunities, encounters, and ideas will appear in ways you could never have planned. The law operates with precision, but it is not limited to your reasoning. It has infinite ways to bring about its result. The moment you claim a new state in feeling, you set a new cause into motion. You may not see it with your eyes, but beneath the surface the currents of life are shifting. Remain faithful, and the invisible will soon break through into visibility. This is as certain as the rising of the sun. The question, then, is not whether the law works. It always works. The question is what feeling you are impressing upon it. Each day, you are planting seeds in the garden of your subconscious. The harvest depends upon the seed. If you persist in feelings of fear, lack, or unworthiness, you cannot expect a harvest of joy, abundance, and love. Change the seed, change the feeling, and you change the harvest. This knowledge is both a gift and a responsibility. It is a gift because it sets you free from the tyranny of circumstance. It is a responsibility because you can no longer blame anyone else for your experience. You need not wait for the world to change. You need not plead with others to act differently. The change must begin within. Assume the feeling of the new state, and in time the world will follow. The outer is but the shadow. The inner is the substance. Change the substance, and the shadow cannot resist. Now let me ask you, do you truly know what you are feeling at this moment? Not the words you speak, not the face you show, but the inner tone you dwell in. For that tone is creating your tomorrow. If you wish to know what you are feeling, look at your world, for it never lies. If you wish to change what you see, change what you feel, and persist until the new state is established. This is the great secret that has been hidden in plain sight. The prophets, the poets, the mystics have all declared it in their own ways. The kingdom of heaven is within you. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. All things are possible to him that believe. These are not mere words but descriptions of a law. Consciousness is the only reality, and feeling is its language. Learn to feel it, and you have learned the art of creation itself. Do not wait for evidence. The moment you wait for a sign before you believe, you have already denied the creative power within you. The outer world is nothing but the echo of the inner state. If you insist on waiting for outer confirmation before you accept the truth of your desire, you will wait endlessly. For the mirror cannot reflect what has not yet been impressed upon it. To live by appearances is to be a servant of circumstance, always reacting, always hoping, always begging for proof. To live by assumption is to be a master, for you declare within yourself what shall be, and the world obeys. Assuming the state before it appears is the essence of creation. Imagine you are an actor stepping into a role. On stage, you may be a king or a beggar, a hero or a villain, yet you do not wait for the costume or the crown to feel the role. You assume it inwardly first. You take on its voice, its bearing, its spirit, and soon the audience believes what you yourself have believed. Life is your stage, and imagination is your costume. If you long to be wealthy, step into the role of wealth now. Feel its ease, its freedom, its confidence. If you desire love, step into the role of one who is cherished and adored. Let the tone of your inner world reflect the state you wish to live. It is not enough to imagine casually. The key is to dwell in the feeling as though it were already yours. Do not merely look at yourself from the outside, like a spectator watching a play. Enter into the scene. See the world from the eyes of the new self. Hear the words that would be spoken to you. Feel the touch that would be yours. Taste the joy of fulfillment. When you assume the state in this way, you move beyond daydream into creation. The world is full of people waiting. They wait for opportunity, wait for recognition, wait for healing, wait for love. Waiting places the desire in the future, always out of reach. Assumption brings it into the present, where alone it can be realized. When you assume, you collapse the distance between desire and fulfillment. You declare that it is already so, and once the subconscious accepts it, life must reshape itself around that conviction. You may wonder how long you must persist in the assumption before it shows itself in your world. The answer is simple. Remain faithful until it feels natural. When a new feeling takes root in you, the outer world is already shifting to reflect it. The seed has been planted, and the harvest must come. You need not strain or force. Creation is finished the moment you assume the state. The rest is simply the unfolding of what has already been sown. Now let us turn to the great mystery of sleep. For here lies one of the most powerful tools you possess. Each night as you drift into sleep, you stand at the doorway of your subconscious mind. In that twilight state between waking and sleeping, the conscious guard relaxes, and the subconscious, ever receptive, stands open to impression. What you carry with you into that state is magnified and planted deeply. If you fall asleep rehearsing fears, your subconscious accepts them as orders, and your world will bear their fruit. If you fall asleep in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, your subconscious receives that as fact, and your world must reflect it. Think of sleep as the soil into which you plant the seeds of tomorrow. You would not carelessly throw weeds into a garden you hope to see filled with roses. Yet so many allow fear, regret, and anger to be the last impressions upon their mind at night. They replay the troubles of the day, they imagine arguments, they dwell in lack, and then they wonder why the harvest is bitter. You must become the careful gardener of your inner world. As you prepare for sleep, choose deliberately the seed you will plant. If you desire success, imagine the satisfaction of achievement as though it were complete. Let the body relax in the sweetness of accomplishment. If you long for reconciliation, feel the warmth of harmony and the joy of togetherness as though it were already yours. If you seek abundance, let the sense of freedom and generosity flood your being until it feels natural. Fall asleep in that mood, and the subconscious will accept it without resistance. The reason this method is so powerful is because sleep resembles death. In sleep, the conscious mind fades and the subconscious rules. It is the subconscious that creates, not the conscious reasoning. The conscious directs, but the subconscious brings forth. When you impress upon it the feeling of your desire fulfilled, it goes to work in ways you cannot see, orchestrating events, influencing others, and guiding you to the very circumstances needed to manifest your assumption. This is why ancient teachers spoke of prayer without ceasing. True prayer is not begging with words but dwelling in the state of the wish fulfilled. Sleep becomes the highest form of prayer when you use it to sink into your assumption. 8 hours of unconscious persistence in your desire is more powerful than many hours of anxious thought in the day. When you awaken in the morning, you will often notice a subtle shift. The feeling you carried into sleep lingers as the atmosphere of your being. That atmosphere becomes your point of attraction. People, opportunities, and ideas will meet you in harmony with it. You may think it coincidence, but it is law. The subconscious has arranged the outer to match the inner seed planted at night. Do not be discouraged if at first the old thoughts intrude. You may find yourself replaying the same worries as you lie down. This is natural, for the mind has been trained by years of habit. But habits yield to persistence. Each night, gently turn away from the old and return to the new. Imagine the scene of fulfillment until it soothes you, until it feels real. until you drift into sleep wearing the mood of your desire. Soon this will become natural, and the old patterns will fade. Some wonder why they cannot simply force their will in the daytime and see results. The reason is that the conscious mind alone cannot create. It is the feeling impressed upon the subconscious that determines creation. Daytime effort without nighttime impression is like scattering seeds on stone. They do not take root, but nighttime feeling sinks deep, and the subconscious, faithful and tireless, brings it forth in due season. Remember also that it is not the intensity of the effort that matters, but the quality of the feeling. You need not strain to create emotion. You need only surrender to the mood of fulfillment. Relax into it as though it were already so. The more natural it feels, the more certain the result. Straining implies doubt, while ease implies faith. The subconscious responds to faith, not struggle. As you practice this, you will discover a new relationship with life. No longer will you be at the mercy of chance or circumstance. You will recognize that every morning you awaken in a world shaped by the seed you planted the night before. You will see the connection between the inner state and the outer event, and the law will become undeniable. So assume the state before it appears. Let the feeling of fulfillment be yours now. Do not wait for evidence will only mirror what you already believe. And as you lay down to sleep, carry with you the mood of that fulfilled desire. In that quiet descent into unconsciousness, the most powerful creation is taking place. What you sow there will rise to meet you in the days to come. When you begin to assume a new state, the first challenge you will face is the contradiction of the senses. You may feel the richness of success within, yet your bank account still shows lack. You may imagine yourself embraced by love, yet the room feels empty. You may claim health, yet the body aches. In those moments, persistence becomes the key. To give up at the first contradiction is to abandon the seed before it has time to sprout. The world you see today is only the echo of yesterday's beliefs. If you want a new tomorrow, you must hold steady to the new feeling even when the evidence around you has not yet caught up. Persistence does not mean tense effort. It means loyalty to the unseen reality. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. You do not dig it up every hour to see if it is growing. You water it, you let the sun touch it, and you trust that it will do its work in the dark. In the same way, once you have assumed the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you return to it quietly, faithfully. Whenever doubt arises, you remind yourself that the inner state is the cause, and the outer world is simply the delayed effect. The senses are persuasive. They shout lack, they scream impossibility, they mock your inner conviction. But if you understand the law, you know that the senses are nothing more than the past made visible. They are the shadow, not the substance. To trust the shadow more than the substance is to live in bondage. To trust the unseen conviction more than the seen contradiction is to live in mastery. The art is in choosing where to place your faith. Persistence is not stubbornness, but faithfulness. Faithfulness to the inner reality even when the outer seems unchanged. This loyalty gradually reshapes the subconscious, and the subconscious in turn reshapes the world. The world cannot resist the persistent assumption. Eventually, the old facts give way to the new feeling. You find yourself living in the very state you once only imagined. Many fail not because they lack power, but because they give in too soon. They assume for a few days, a few nights. Then the old evidence confronts them and they retreat into doubt. The seed was ready to break through the soil, but they abandoned it in discouragement. True persistence is quiet, steady, unwavering. It is not measured in effort but in fidelity. Even when you stumble into doubt, you return to the feeling. Even when you are tempted to despair, you remind yourself that the law never fails. Persistence also requires that you do not seek constant reassurance from the outer world. To look continually for signs is to confess unbelief. The sign you are seeking is the feeling itself. When the feeling is established within, the manifestation is already assured. Do not demand to see it first. Let the outer world unfold in its own perfect order. The inner conviction is the true sign that creation is complete. As you live in this way, you begin to recognize that you are not at the mercy of anything outside yourself. This brings us to the final and most liberating truth, that you are the operant power. Nothing works of itself. Imagination does not act independently. Feeling does not create unless you apply it. The law responds only when you operate it. To know the truth without practicing it is like holding a key without unlocking the door. The law is waiting for you to use it, and it has no choice but to obey when you do. You are not a pawn of fate. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not a leaf blown about by the winds of chance. You are the creative power itself, directing your world through the states you inhabit. The moment you accept this, life changes. Responsibility shifts from the outside to the inside. There is no one else to blame, no condition to curse, no destiny to fear. There is only your own assumption and the results that flow from it. This realization can be both thrilling and sobering. Thrilling because it means nothing is impossible to you. Sobering because it means every limitation in your life is self-imposed. You may resist this at first. You may point to injustice, to misfortune, to chance events. But if you trace them back, you will always find an inner state that allowed them to appear. Change the state and the outer must change. You are the source. When you truly grasp that you are the operant power, you stop waiting for miracles and begin performing them. You stop pleading with the world and start commanding it by your inner conviction. You stop asking others for permission and start declaring your own reality. This is not arrogance but alignment with the law. The universe is structured to respond to your assumption. To deny this is to live small. To accept it is to live as the creator you were always meant to be. Some will object and say, if I am the operant power, why can I not simply will anything into existence in an instant? The answer is that creation follows order. The subconscious accepts feeling, not force. You cannot demand a new reality with words alone. You must clothe yourself in the feeling of it until it becomes natural. Once it is natural, the manifestation is inevitable. This is why persistence and assumption are so vital. You operate the power by sustaining the new state, not by forcing results. The law does not discriminate. It does not reward the good and punish the bad. It reflects faithfully whatever is impressed upon it. If you assume fear, it will bring about fearful events. If you assume love, it will bring about loving experiences. The power is impartial, but you are the one who directs it. To claim you are powerless is to refuse to operate what is already in your hands. To claim you are limited is to misuse the power that has no limit. You are always operating the law, whether you know it or not. Every assumption, every inner conversation, every persistent feeling is shaping your world. The difference between the awakened and the asleep is that the awakened use it deliberately, while the asleep use it unconsciously. Most people drift through life assuming lack, assuming struggle, assuming defeat, and then wondering why their lives mirror those assumptions. The awakened one chooses deliberately what to assume and persists in it until it is fact. When you realize this, life takes on a new simplicity. There is no longer any mystery about success or failure. There is only the state you inhabit. If you want to know your future, look at the feelings you persist in today. If you want to change your future, change your feelings and persist in the new state until it becomes real to you. The world must follow, for it is powerless to resist the command of the operant power within you. This truth is not reserved for the few. It belongs to all. The law does not care about age, background, circumstance, or status. It responds only to assumption. The poorest man can assume wealth and rise. The loneliest soul can assume love and be transformed. The sick can assume health and recover. The law makes no distinction. It is always waiting, always responding, always creating in exact accord with what is felt to be true. The responsibility, then, rests entirely with you. You cannot blame the law if you persist in negative states. You cannot accuse life of being unfair if you continually assume failure. The law is as exact as mathematics. It cannot be deceived. It cannot be mocked. It cannot be bribed. It gives back only what you impress upon it. To change the result, change the impression. To change the impression, change the feeling. Persistence and operant power go hand in hand. Without persistence, you abandon the state before it bears fruit. Without recognizing yourself as the operant power, you never truly claim the state at all. Together, they make you unstoppable. You assume the state, you persist in it, you let the subconscious accept it, and you watch as the world bends itself to reflect it. This is the art of creation. This is the law of life.